Good afternoon, it's Dave at All Things Important Reviews. Please smash that like button, please smash that subscribe button for more awesome watch content. Little wristwatch check. I've got my Victorinox two-tone gold and silver. Absolutely beautiful. 43mm. This is called the Victorinox Maverick Large. 100-meter water. Sapphire or lacquered bezel. Absolute killer watch. If you can pick one of these up, they do loads of different colours. It is a fantastic all-round watch. I love it. But I thought I'd do a little comparison of some of my favourite cheaper G-Shocks and compared with the latest GST-B400. We have on my left the GD-100. These are all G-Shocks, so they all have the 200-meter water resist, the extreme ruggedness. Now, these two are digital models. This is a GD-100 and the GD-350 and the GST-B400 on my right. Now, they're not strictly marketed against each other by any stretch of the imagination. The GST-B400 is a 299 RRP model, and with bracelet it's more like 399. This is the bracelet for the watch, as you've seen, that I much prefer it on. But it is super comfortable. Now, just as to start on the sizing, okay? To start on the sizing, I mean, just looking at them now, in my opinion, the smallest one looks like the middle one, the GD-350. But that is confusing in a way. I mean, in some ways, it is the smallest, in some ways. But in other ways, it's not, because this only has a 46mm, the GST-B400, only has a 46.6mm lug to lug. The GD-350 is going to be, if you can call it lug to lug, it's going to be more like 51mm. And this bad boy is going to be more like 53mm, if you can class that as a lug to lug. It's difficult to actually do it on this model because, yeah, there to there. Now, thickness wise, but I think, well, strangely, I think the GD-350 looks the smallest. I think that it can look the smallest, at least when I was looking at them all then. But interestingly, they're all super comfortable on the wrist. The thickness wise, again, these two, the GD-100 and the GD-350, compared with the GST-B400, they're actually, I mean, the GST-B400 is on paper significantly thinner, okay? But, because this is more like 18mm to the top of the plastic, on the top of the bezel, but you don't really have to count it from there. What matters is really from the crystal. Because it's plastic, it doesn't really have much weight, so the thickness doesn't feel that thick. So really, to the actual crystal, they're both actually very similar. They're both actually probably about, this is probably about 14mm, something like that. Whereas this is more like 12.9, 12.10, well, 13mm. And a very similar one with the GD-350, very similar thickness, like about 18mm up to here, and then that's probably going to be about 14, 13mm to the crystal, maybe a touch above that. But here's the thing. On the wrist, they're all super light, okay? On the wrist, the GD-100, in my opinion, on the wrist, fits the best. And that is because of, this is this one here, that's because of the way that Casio have done this band. They've done the resin band really, really good. They've made it supple and tough to move. They give it a lot of support around the wrist where it would curve around your wrist. Yet they've made this part much more softer and pliable. So it sticks in position really, really well on the GD-100, which is what I've got in my hand here. Even though this is the biggest one. This is the biggest diameter and the biggest lug to lug by a mile. But this is going to be about 70 grams, 70 odd grams. The GD-350 will be about 70 odd grams. And this is only going to be about 80 grams. However, I would say it feels a touch more than that. And I would say that because it's a stainless steel top, it's a tiny bit more top heavier than these two. On a bracelet, the GST-B400, this one, is going to be double the weight of that. It's going to be about 165, 160, definitely. I'll talk about that at the end, actually, about something interesting about that. Now, with these two, they do not feel the same on the wrist. They're both super light, but they don't feel the same on the wrist. And the reason is because of the way that the Casio have done the bands. The bands are completely different. Well, they look very similar, but they're not at all. And the reason is because this one has this support here, which stops it from curving too much at the sides. But the bottom does curve around really good. So it gives a nice gap around so it doesn't get sweaty, basically. Now, on this one, on this model, which I've took the wings off of, you are supposed to have wings on it like that. And they've made the band they've made it so it doesn't curve as much, basically. It's not as supported on the sides. And I don't like that. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't fit. Even with these wings, it does not fit as good, in my opinion, as this one. I wish they'd put a similar band to this on the GD-350 model. Now, the GST-B400, which is 3 times the RRP of both of these, roughly, even though both of these you'll be able to get well below the RRP. In fact, you can get this one below the RRP, because I did. I got nearly 100 quid off it. So you can actually get all three well below the asking price. But I would say this is 2 to 3 times the price of these two, if not more, really. And there's a reason why, and I'm going to tell you the reason why in a minute. But the band on this one is a different type of resin. This is more like what you'd call a rubber band. Whereas these, I would call these more like a plastic band, a resin band. Where this is more like a super soft rubber. Now that has benefits and downsides. One benefit is it's softer on the wrist. Absolutely, it is super comfortable on the wrist, definitely. But arguably, it's not as supportive. It might make the watch move around a bit more, because it's not as tough as the other ones are. But it is really comfortable. The band on this is super comfortable. It's one of the comfiest G-Shocks with a stainless steel top that's ever been made. I would argue it is the comfortable most. Whereas these feel completely different. The band on this is a different type of plastic, basically, a different type of resin. And but I still really do like this band. Now, I didn't like the band on the G300. I really disliked that band. It was closer to this, but it was even more tougher. It was even less pliable, and it was uncomfortable in my opinion. But the GST-B400, they've got it right, even though it feels completely different to this band. Now, oh, by the way, if you wanted to ever put one of these cheaper G-Shocks on a bracelet, you can go on J's and K's, and you can you can buy adapters for them. They do adapters for these watches, basically, and they're probably about 30 to 40 quid, something like that, if not a bit cheaper. And then you can put a NATO on it. You can put your own, you can put a bracelet on it, a steel bracelet or whatever. If you really do prefer to use these models on a different strap. I think for this one, this one would possibly work on a NATO or on a bracelet. This one, I think you should just use the normal strap for it. I think that's perfectly fine. And I think when you put them on the wrist, you'll be like, wow. Now, one thing I'll compare on these models is the legibility of the subdials. Now, it's really hard to tell on this one because it's so small and it's negative on the B400. It's really hard to really give a, you know, it's still pretty good legibility, even though they are tiny and it is negative. But look, when it lights up, you're still getting good viewing angles. Now, comparing the GD-100 and the GD-350 here, just comparing the viewing angles, again, it's not super easy to do, but I can assure you, even though they both are crisp, the viewing angle off angle is far superior. Now look at the one on my left. That angle there, it's completely lost legibility. You cannot see the time on the left one. On the right one, you can still see the time. Completely off angle. That's because the panel type inside the display has to be different. Even though they're both low energy, the panel type must be different. And the GD350 has an incredibly good viewing angle. You know, you can even display. Now, light functionality. Excellent. Excellent again. But you can see there, can you see the viewing angle? Look, it looks more greyed out. It loses contrast off angle. Whereas this one doesn't significantly. Look, you're getting a really good, clear picture. And it has to be because Casio have put a different panel type inside of it. So this one has superior legibility, in my opinion. But it's only just, though, because most people, when you've got the watch on your wrist, you glance at it like that. You glance at it at an angle. And at the angle you'll be glancing at it, you get good legibility. I just thought I'd point that out there. The light on the GST-B400 is really good, really legible. Now, just from a looks perspective, it's hard, you know, they're completely different styles, really. I mean, they're all sports watches, but obviously the central one is more kind of military. Whereas the B400 is an all-round watch. I mean, you could argue that this one is the most all-round by a mile because it's got stainless steel on it and it's got a black rubber band. You could wear this with a suit even. It is sporty, obviously, but you could get away with it. You know, you could argue it looks a little bit like some APs, you know. Whereas these two on the left are just straight sports models and military sports models. They'd be seen in the gym, you know, casual, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to give a winner or a loser on that. Obviously, the all-rounder is the GST-B400. In terms of these two, it depends on looks, what you want. Do you want a casual, sporty one, or do you want to look at something a bit more edgy and a bit more military-esque? So again, it's impossible to say, really. This one does look more kind of, you know, it's even less. It's super sportsy. You know, some people would not like the design of this model. In terms of if they had to wear it anything but casual, you can't really, because it's a, you know, super sports watch. So now the main reason why these two are a lot cheaper, even though these are fantastic buys, if you did want to buy them, go on Amazon, go on eBay, you can get them for well below the RRP. You know, I probably picked this one up a few years ago. I'm not kidding you, for about 50 GBP at the time. This one, I imported it from America off eBay, I think, for about, probably about 100 quid. But the RRP was more than that and I imported it. Now, the main reason why, and the main feature reason why these two models are a lot cheaper than the B400 is very simply for two reasons. Number one, the two black models on my left are battery powered, whereas this is a solar battery. So this will last you probably 8 to 10 years, if not more. on the right. There's a battery inside it, but it charges on fluorescent, sunlight and non-fluorescent light. Whereas these two have a quartz battery inside of them. Now, that battery might last 5 years if you're lucky. Now, I've had these watches for about 4 years and I've never ever changed the battery. So obviously they're going well still. But this one, you don't have to worry about it for many, many, many years. And you've got an indicator here that tells you how much battery you have, how much charge. I need to put it on the window ledge actually to get it a bit more charged. But these two models don't have that. The other main feature that it doesn't have, that these two don't have, is it doesn't have Bluetooth. So that means that these two cannot be synchronized with your phone's time. So you cannot have perfect timekeeping all year round. Whereas with this one, if you're happy to sync it with Bluetooth, you can have in any country in the world that you can get a phone signal to, you can get perfect timekeeping. Now that's another biggie. Now those two technologies in and of themselves will increase the cost. The other biggie is of course the stainless steel. The whole presentation of this one is better, and it's stainless steel. Oh, and it's analog digital. So you've got an analog complication plus the digital subdials. So for all that, that's why it's 3 times the price basically. But these two are fantastic all-round models for sports, gym, that type of holiday watches, swimming. 200-meter water is this. You can take them diving. You can do anything you want with them basically. And they're super, super cheap. What Casio should have done, and they've done it in loads of other G-Shocks, but they've not done it in these two models for some reason. They should have put multiband or Bluetooth and tough solar in one model of them. Even if you have to charge a bit more, they should have put it in. And I would buy it all day long, and that would be my all-day beaters. I've started wearing them even more now because they're so light. They're only about 70 grams. In the summer, that is great. Wearing a big heavy bracelet watch sometimes can get a bit sweaty. Wearing these bad boys is a different thing. Now, I haven't mentioned already, I took the wings off it because I don't like the way the wings feel, but other people definitely disagree with me, and they love the feel of them wings, and they think it's the comfiest thing ever. So if you want to put them on this model, this one doesn't come with them, but this one does, the 350, then go ahead, do it. Now, the other thing is as well, you could say about the GST-B400, am I right, is that there's an OEM bracelet, not for this model. I mean, it is for this. It's for the slightly different reference number for the one ended in D, the B400D. This is the bracelet for that, but you can switch it with this, as I've shown you in a different video. So you can get a proper native bracelet for this watch that you can't get, obviously, if you have to buy a J's and K's for these two. So that's another reason. But I just thought I'd show you what you can get out there for the pricing points, because they are at slightly different pricing points, with this being the cheapest, this being a little bit further up. There probably is, in terms of like world time, stopwatch, alarm, there probably is something else in this model that I've not told you about that it has. Now, I am a big fan also of the Mudmasters, but the Mudmasters are massive watches, humongous, like 20 mil thick. Some of them are, that I've had, and I'll put pictures up of the one I had and sold, and I am going to buy it back. That was the GWG, I think it was either 1000 or 100B. It was a multi-band, tough solar, green, camo, beautiful, beautiful watch. But again, I felt it was a touch too bulky. But the one they released a couple of years ago, the BB one, that one didn't come with tough solar, and I was really disappointed. It has to have tough solar, in my opinion, even though they last like 5 years or so. These batteries, they can do. I wanted it to have the tough solar, but anyway. Last comment. The GST B400 is having an updated model, which I'm going to do a video about. Casio have just announced, it's on Gshock Central. They're releasing the GST B500 in April this year. At least they are in Japan. It'll be coming global as well, I think. And that model is thinner than this one by 0.1 of a mil, and furthermore comes natively in a highly legible dial version like this, but even more legible in the silver bracelet black dial or grey dial with white indices or light indices and a bit of red on it. It looks even more beautiful than this. They've all got bracelets on them that I can see. They're releasing a green one, a gold one, an all black one. So, and apparently if Gshock Central's right, the weight of it with a bracelet is not 160 grams, it's only going to be 143 grams. Now that's fantastic if that's true. So if that is true, I'm selling both of mine and I'm going to get the GST-B400. But great watches, great all-round watches. Like I said, you can't go wrong with them. It'll be interesting to see if they release an updated model of this one, the GD-350, because I think it does need it. It needs to have those extra features that they've not put in them, like the multiband and the Bluetooth or the solar. But yeah, cheers for checking my video out. Loads of watches coming. Have a great day. It's been Dave.